let's talk about some of the topics you want. You're obviously specialized in B2B.
Yes.
So I think one of the things you talked about was like how you love like building these funnels and tracking every element in there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think.
But first, a quick message from our sponsor. Finding a good SEO partner that specializes in content marketing can be hard. Since 1999, Internet Marketing Ninjas has built its reputation on SEO and content marketing strategies. Internet Marketing Ninjas is run by Jim Boykin. I've known Jim for close to 20 years now. He's been a very hands-on SEO, he's a very hands-on CEO as well, and he's built a great team at the Internet Marketing Ninjas. From what I hear, their clients are very happy with them too. The Internet Marketing Ninjas could also help you with your Core Web Vitals and page experience update. They're very hands-on with that. They'll make the changes for you, not just provide the audit. So check them out at internetmarketingninjas.com.
Part of the reason why I love B2B marketing and demand generation specifically is kind of how you can track the buyer journey. This isn't just like a transaction that happens immediately, and there are many steps to it, and it's not necessarily like super long sales cycles where you can't track each step or it's going to take years. Working in B2B SaaS, it's really interesting to be able to track how someone converts on a piece of content or a demo request from your ad, and how sales then interacts with that person to schedule a call, go through a demo of the product, and eventually close them to a customer. So the really interesting thing is that it's not just about optimizing your campaigns for the initial conversion. It's optimizing your campaigns to actually drive customers over time. And there's different ways that ad campaigns can interact with a person from their initial conversion, whatever that may be, to the time they actually close as a customer. So I think that journey is really exciting to see how we can influence it at multiple states and to be able to actually bring that tracking into what we're doing in the ad platforms. Usually, like what I'm building out is using the tools we have with our CRM and our marketing automation platform to, as granular as the keyword level, see how many leads or marketing qualified leads that keyword drives, and then actually how those convert to sales qualified leads, opportunities, customers, and how they might convert to something that's disqualified. And I think that feedback is really important, especially as we see match types get wider. So one really interesting thing is, if you've listened to Marketing O'Clock, you know that I have been very vocal about how I feel about broad match. And that opinion has changed over the last month. I was working with someone who really wanted to test broad match with smart bidding, and I wasn't super for it. But we tried it, like, because how do you know unless you test something? And with that tracking set up, we were actually able to really drill down into kind of what keywords were working with broad match and actually driving customers for queries that we might not have thought of, and which keywords had absolute garbage matching that were driving a lot of B2C queries and that reps were immediately disqualifying. So being able to get that feedback from the sales teams is really helpful in influencing our campaign strategies.
I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to in the past, 6 months that have been telling me the same thing, that they're shocked that it's actually working well.
Yeah. And I think it's just the matching is getting a little bit smarter. Like when we first were introduced to this, I think the matching was so egregious that it didn't work. And I think the other thing to factor in is that some people just search weird things. And there might be some more intent data that we get with smart bidding than we don't know about. And someone might be searching one thing, but they mean something else. And I think when you're using broad match with smart bidding and maybe some audiences, you can get at that. But yeah, definitely not doing it with ECBC.
Right. It's interesting because I built a couple SaaS platforms for my own company. One was super successful, and the extent, it was very niche, super niche. It wasn't like mass market type of stuff. So it was very super niche. And the stuff we did was very limited in terms of online marketing. It was mostly like people in the industry eventually just knew the name and knew the product, and they knew they had to have a demo for it. But we used to keep it on top of mind, was just basic old-fashioned Google retargeting, remarketing, and Facebook remarketing, just to follow them around.
Yeah.
Because the leads just flowed in, and then once they went to the website once, it was just like, make sure they don't forget us.
Yeah. And I think like I am very much a fan of remarketing, and I get very in the weeds with it of kind of segmenting campaigns like by where someone falls off
Right.
in the stage, like whether they even got to a bottom of the funnel page or not, and like if we should be offering them a demo or a piece of content. And then, like I talked before, like watching how a lead actually progresses in the CRM. I'm a really big advocate for CRM retargeting so that if a sales rep isn't able to schedule a call with someone or they kind of ghost them, they might be ignoring all of that salesperson's emails and calls. If we can get in front of them with an ad, that is a way that we can get to them. That's a channel that they might not ignore as much as they would ignore an email or a phone call.
Right.
Is
That makes a lot of sense. I mean,
Mhm.
just keep them like sometimes like the emails are just too much. Like the CRM applications just constantly pop out emails, and it's like you get them all the time probably.
Yeah, and you don't know how well someone's managing their inbox.
Right.
if
So
someone has hundreds of unopened emails, like Jess here, like they're not seeing your sales pitch.
yeah, that sounds. I'm OCD about my email, so it kind of sounds scary to have so many unread. But cool. That's interesting. Is there any like one thing that you would say like a SaaS B2B customer kind of misses in this area that they should be thinking about, especially around the CRM aspect of targeting and not grouping things properly, or they don't.
Yeah, I think one thing I see a lot is companies not excluding like their own customers a lot, especially with retargeting, where a lot of your retargeting spend can be wasted on that. Um, and I think like really digging into how well you can segment your CRM data. People love to be like, oh, I have this list of leads, let's upload them and target them without thinking of, okay, this person's already seen all of my generic ads. How can I create something that's tailored to them and really speaks to the problem that they were trying to solve the first time they came to me? And how can I better speak to that problem now that I know a little bit more about them? And how can I coordinate those kind of retargeting efforts with what I'm doing on email marketing and what my sales team is doing in their outreach to them, so that we can be hitting them with the right messaging? I also think the other area that's really ignored a lot, even with people who are more skilled at CRM retargeting, is closed lost opportunities. So a lot of people market to their leads, marketing qualified leads that haven't converted to a sales call, but a lot of companies don't really think about what to do with their closed lost opportunities. And we're in a really interesting spot right now where our product is very different than where it was 2 years ago. And we've been going back via retargeting and email marketing to a lot of contacts that are closed opportunities from years ago, with maybe our product wasn't meeting their needs yet, but now it really will. And we know these people are interested enough that they will hop on a call and talk to us. So making sure those people aren't ignored is really important, because that is very low hanging fruit.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I keep like going back to my products and be like, yeah, we pitched some clients early on with the product. We knew it wasn't there, but we had to get some clients, and they wrote us off. They're like, we're never going to look at you again. But 5 years later, we're a different platform, much better, we learned a lot of things. So
Mhm.
that's great advice. The other topic you wanted to discuss was around structuring your campaigns, your Google ad campaigns specifically for B2B.
Mhm.
What tips you got there?
Yeah, I think a lot of what I see out there is a lot of people are very quick. Sometimes when you're trying to like kind of group campaigns by to get enough conversions or to allocate budget, I think it makes a lot more sense to be kind of segmenting your campaigns by level of intent. And I think a lot of that data can be changed over time based on how we're seeing individual keywords convert down the funnel, like I mentioned before. So, really, like, kind of my mainstay of how I set up my targeting is by having the most core bottom of the funnel keywords that really we know speak to the product well, and someone searching that is a buyer, and setting those up as kind of like no additional targeting, probably using eCPC to maximize how much we show for those, and then segment additional middle of the funnel and top of the funnel keywords, where middle of the funnel will probably use smart bidding and audiences. Those keywords aren't as close, and we need to have signals that indicate someone's ready to purchase. And then top of funnel keywords that we might only use in an RLSA. So I think that's really important. And then also, if you are kind of an early stage startup and your TAM is huge and you don't quite understand that yet, being able to identify individual verticals that you might segment, not necessarily campaigns into, but ad groups, and find those keywords that are very verticalized. And then, kind of last part, if you're using new broad match, separating that out and not doing the traditional where we might mix exact match and phrase match in one campaign, but having that broad match separated out in order to control spend and better track the quality of those conversions is really important to be successful there, where you might not want the same bid strategies for phrase match as you would for broad, kind of being able to track the quality of those conversions very easily and to allocate spend, because again, new broad match is good at capturing some intent, but the queries can be pretty funky and possibly match to B2C terms.
It's super interesting to hear you talk, because a lot of the decisions you're making on the structure and targeting is based on the information that Google's giving back to you on what these people are searching for, what their intents are, and stuff like that. Are you concerned, like in 2, 3, 5, 10 years, that you're gonna have less data to work with?
Oh, completely. I think I don't even have the data that I want now. A lot of kind of like like we know, like we're missing 40% of search terms or more most of the time.
Right.
There's a lot more inference that has to be done now. But again, by like capturing keywords in the CRM, if I'm seeing a lot of disqualified keyword or a lot of disqualified leads come from a particular keyword, I can tell that that keyword is not mapping properly. And you can start to pick up patterns on types of keywords that map more broadly than others. Like I found, like Google loves to drop the word system. And the word system is very important in being a B2B modifier that might signal some sort of purchase intent.
Right.
But for some reason, Google's mapping algorithm drops that all the time. And we can see that trend and kind of infer that where that's happening. And then also based on the conversations reps are having with leads, if you're like me and getting really deep in the weeds and looking at notes on contacts, you can see what that person was actually looking for versus the keyword that it mapped to. And I think by having those like actual tangible conversations and using the data in your CRM and not just the data in Google Ads, Microsoft Ads, whatever it is, you really learn a lot more. And if you can marry that data, it tells a really wonderful story that helps you make better decisions.
Okay. My last question, unrelated to those things, is you always, when I've watched Marketing O'Clock when you were on it, you always seem to be super in the weeds then. But now,
Yes.
Are you more super in the weeds because you're working for one company with one goal? Or is that fair to say?
Yes, I would say I am probably just as much in the weeds, if not more, but it looks a little bit different. I think that now being in-house, I'm able to act on the information that I'm finding a little bit more freely. So kind of what's different is working at Cypress North. Like, yes, I was very in the weeds with leads, following up with sales teams to make sure that leads were followed up with. But I didn't necessarily have the ideal relationship with sales and business development at all of my clients that I would want. So now, kind of being in house, I'm able to have conversations with our SDR managers, our director of business development, our CRO about kind of what that relationship between marketing and sales should look like, and surfacing concerns that I have about the health of our funnel, and really being able to influence like our actual goals and kind of what marketing can be expected to produce, where back in-house I didn't have as much influence over the goals, so I could say this is what I think is realistic, this is what we can do, but it was kind of up to the internal stakeholder at the company to actually make that decision. So I feel like I'm able to act a lot more on the data that I surface rather than just provide recommendations.
That makes a lot of sense. Cool. Well, this was super fascinating, this conversation. Thank you so much for coming out and having this talk with me. If people want to learn more about you, follow some of your wisdom, where can they find you on social or?
Yeah. Thank you very much. You can find me at Marketing by Mark on Twitter. And if you are one of those people that use LinkedIn, you can find me at Mark T. Saltarelli on LinkedIn.
One of those people. Anyway, I love him saying these people or those people.
No, that's Greg's biggest thing is that like I do post on LinkedIn every once in a while, but I wouldn't say a LinkedIn influencer.
No.
And Greg always makes jokes about people who use LinkedIn.
It's funny.
There's some memeable moments happening.
I'll randomly go on LinkedIn just to like accept the invites sometimes, and then I'll see an article come up, and it's literally a copy and paste of what I wrote on Search Engine Land or Search Engine Roundtable.
Cute.
No credit, no link, no nothing. And I'm like, I'll comment. This is very interesting. Where did you find this? I'm like randomly, like,
and just troll them.
Because it's like, what happens to site? People should cite. People should like source.
Oh,
You got
yeah,
marketing
no.
o'clock is like big into this person cited this. You know, Glenn Gabe said this or some. You know.
Yeah, and it's like we should be lifting each other up and not being. Hats.
I don't think they do it intentionally. I think it's just they're sharing something that they found. So.
I know, but it's like, how do you build your network if you're not interacting with other people?
I don't know. Anyway, those people on LinkedIn are the worst. I'm just joking.
Make sure you cite Barry.
All right, cool. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.